up and get stuck on your share, on what I saw here recently. I'm going to leave MPI, I'm going to leave, how am I going to leave, who am I going to call, what am I going to do, I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave. They don't hear anything. All right? And then your brain is going to get stuck, and what we're going to try to do, obviously, is break out of this. But the same thing, when we were down there, they had 6 of their alumni talk, and every one of them was fantastic. The first kid who talked, I watched him, he's probably 16, 17 years old, he's clean probably 2 years. But after he spoke, and he spoke first, so there's 50 more minutes of people talking, I'll bet he maybe heard 5. Because you could just see his brain was like, why did I say that? What do these people think about me? I shouldn't have said this. I probably should have said this. I said, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. And you could see, literally, and because literally, you can often see people's self-esteem on their face. Where yesterday, second day of the semester, one of my students, well, I probably shouldn't talk about people on film, so I won't. Okay, so I won't talk about a student. But that's the reattribute. And so what we're going to try to do here, we're going to say, here's what's going on. And what the whole focus is we're going to try to shift gears. I talk about this in my book. I use it like what we're going to do is we're going to try to, instead of trying to get rid of this craving, we're going to try to get rid of this urge, or what's wrong with me? Why am I having a craving? I just left treatment. I must be one of those people in the big book who can't get clean and sober. There's something the matter with me. All right? It's that, wait a second. I pull back. I'm having a craving. I'm having an urge. I'm feeling bad about myself. All right? The third step. This is refocus. So I give you a couple sports sayings in here. And this one you all probably know. No pain, what?
No gain.
No gain. What do we say? It works if you work it. And this is where the work comes in. That what you need to do is that, and this is where so many people don't get it, the work that needs to be done. Think of this. Somebody comes to see me in therapy. They sit down and they say, I'm depressed. And I said, you know what? I've been a therapist for over 20 years. I'm great with depression. Cheer up. Just cheer up. Somebody comes in. I got a lot of anxiety. I got the solution. You need to relax. Somebody else. I've got an eating disorder. I'm bulimic. I binge and I purge. Well, don't do that anymore. Okay? Somebody who's anorexic. Just eat some. Sounds like a joke, but here's the thing. The majority of the people who come into treatment do that to themselves. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop drinking. I'm just going to stop using. And that's kind of as crazy as if I would say that to the people in my office. And that's what they say. I'll just stop. All right? And the reality is there needs to be work in the stopping. Whatever that is, whether it's my internet addiction, whether it's my shopping addiction, whatever it is, gambling, sex, spending money, anything like this. And so what we do, the refocused, we shift our attention to something else. Your brain gets stuck. You see Tim or I bring someone over to the nurse's station. How do you get out of your brain? You walk up to them and you start talking to them. How you doing? You ever been here before? I can show you around later. What are you here for? My name's, they're not going to remember your name. My name's so-and-so. But what does that do? That gets you out of here. So often what I see happen in treatment, people go, I'm so upset, I want to be by myself. Worst thing. Absolute worst thing. All right, and same thing, abnormal psychology. The more social support you have, the better your chance of recovery is. The more social support, the better social skills you have. Now you think about this. This is not just in recovery. This is every disorder in abnormal psychology. Think of the depressed person. If they have friends and people to talk to, they're less likely to be depressed. If they have the social skills to do that. So not only the less chance it is that you get a disorder, the better your recovery is from it. So you shift your attention, and then what does that mean? You do something else. And so what do you say to yourself here? You say, I am experiencing a symptom of addiction. I'm experiencing a symptom of addiction. I need to do another behavior. Right? I'm experiencing I'm having a craving to use. I'm experiencing a symptom of addiction. I need to do another behavior. Because see, there's a whole difference in what you need to get. The whole difference between observation and judgment. Observation. I notice I'm having a craving. Judgment. What is wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I'm bad. I can't do this. That's a judgment. We want to shift from judgment to observation. I do this with athletes constantly. I do this myself constantly. I may be working out and it may take me at least a half hour or 45 minutes to warm up. I don't put a judgment on that. I just go, wow, it's taken me a long time to warm up today. All right, I'm going to go harder in my second spin class than the first spin class or something like that. But that's not a judgment like, oh, what's the matter with me? And so we need to do this because, once again, so many people in here, they judge themselves. And if you say, wait, this craving is not, what's the matter with me? This is a symptom of my addiction that's been part of my life for a long time. This negative self-talk that I have, that's not, wait, what's going on here? I need to do something else. And so now, what else? What are the things you can do here? All right? And here, once again, this is where the work comes in. One, talk about it. I'm really angry. I'm really upset. I'm really stressing about my job. I think I'm going to get fired. I think my relationship's going to end. My husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, so-and-so is mad at me. You talk about this. Okay? And you talk about it. And here's another thing. This is what's so important so important when people leave here. Not even when you can even do this while you're here. Making phone calls. I don't want to call anybody. This is what the common thing we hear here. You can call me anytime. You got a problem, call me at 3 a.m. I'll be there for you. You can call me. You can count on me. What they don't say is, I'm never calling you because I'm scared to call people. But you can call me. And the thing is, if you practice this, you make phone calls to people who left here this week. How you doing? Just want to check on you. Just want to see how you're doing. What's going on? Practice making phone calls, because what I would say, you cannot create a support system when you need it. You can't. The support system needs to be in place. Why did many of my athletes do well? Is because I would put so much pressure on them on certain days in practice that when they got to a competition, it was easy. Because it's like, hey, I only have to do this once. You're not going to make me do it over again, you know? And so we need to do that. We need to talk. We need to work on so many people just aren't good listeners. And so the refocus is, I notice I'm not listening to her. I notice I'm in my head. I'm going to try to come out of my head and listen to what she's saying. And then when she's talking, same thing. I notice I'm not listening either. My brain is running ahead of time. I'm going to refocus and listen on her. You may have to do this 15 times by the time these 4 people talk. All right? But what happens is, 2 or 3 weeks later, you may only need to do it 10 times. And then 3 weeks later, you may only do it 4 times. And then 3 weeks later, you don't even need to do it. Or you need to do it just once. All right? But at first, you may need to do it 15, 20 times in 15 to 20 minutes. But that's what happens. And so the thing I talk about every single time I talk here, we want to try to develop new coping skills. New coping skills. The term I use in therapy, I tell people and ask them, what are they working on? Those of you who've done sports, you know, as an athlete, you're always working on something. I'm working on my strength and conditioning. I'm working on my diet and my recovery. I'm working on my flexibility. I'm working on my endurance. I'm working on my speed work. I'm working on my whatever. I'm working on something. So many people just think, that's like I said there, well, I'm just not going to use. How are you working on, you know what? I'm trying to develop new coping skills of meeting people. So that when somebody comes in here, I'm going to come up to them, hey, how you doing? When you go to maybe an outside meeting, or you go down to the potluck next Friday night, this is what I talked about last month in here. What happens at the potluck? Usually the alumni hang out over here, and you guys hang over there, out over there. Walk up to them, hey, how you doing? Just wanted to meet you. My name's so-and-so, when were you here? How many people are still clean from when you were here? Why do you think all those people relapse? You got any advice for me? You know, there's a Chinese proverb I talk about in my book. It says, wisdom begins with the words, I don't know. It's true. Wisdom begins with the words, I don't know. So many people don't want to talk about what they don't know. I got all the answers. I know what to do. I can handle it. And it's like, I'm struggling. You think about that. Those of you who are in here because you relapsed, did you say to anybody, I'm thinking of using. I've been having cravings. I've been really struggling lately. Do you have time to talk? No. It all becomes me, 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 me. And so the refocus part, this is where we take some action here. And this is just such a huge, important part of this. And so that's where we're doing this. And that this becomes, you know, it's the whole thing. If our brain gets stuck on the negative self-talk, we can say to somebody, man, I'm beating myself up today. You know, the thing that we talk about here all the time, I see this constantly out, and it's not, this people just think, oh, well, this is just an addiction. This happens everywhere. Where people, I compare how I feel on the inside to how you look on the outside. That happens to my students, that happens to people in therapy, that happens to people walking down the street. You look like you have it all together, I feel like I don't. You look like there was a guide to life and you got it and I didn't. You know, you look like you know how to deal with things and I don't. All right, so many people have, that's not just an addiction thing. That happens constantly. And then the fourth part of this, the last step here, this is revalue. And the revalue here, the main thing is you revalue yourself. Think of, back to something to work on. What are you doing to build your self-esteem? What are you doing to build your self-esteem? What can you do to build your self-esteem? What are your possible options to build your self-esteem? How are you going to feel better about yourself? One is, so many people who come through here over the years, what I see, I'm very hard on myself, I'm very sensitive, and I like criticize myself a lot. All right? And then how are you working on changing that? I want to build my self-esteem. Well, part of it is I'm going to acknowledge that that negative voice is from my parents or my whatever, and it's not me. Acknowledge that I can do these things. Go ahead.
Some people also have a tendency to step on other people's heads to feel better about themselves.
Right.
I don't really know how that comes in. Like, how does somebody develop that?
I think it's going to take an awareness, and it may be, you know, that, wow, I realize that either I'm putting this person down or I'm just trying to be grandiose and talk about how great I am. You know, and what it is, this is, you know, and the whole key to this is an awareness. So many people just kind of like go through life without this awareness of, how am I coming across? How am I, you know, why is it that this keeps happening in my life? And so this revalue, we're going to look at building your self-esteem. What can I do to make me feel better about me? How can I turn down that negative voice? And how can I turn up some positive things in my life? This is what I want to try to do. Okay? Go ahead.
I got a question. I mean, not to get off the topic too much or anything, but as far as, it's more of a, you know, being the stronger person and not opening up, being the strong person inside.
Right.
And, you know, if you come from around
Anywhere. Anywhere.
Oh,
You come anywhere, you come from a family, don't talk about our problems, don't put our business on the street, deal with it.
yeah.
All right? Here's the thing. I want you to notice when people come in here and relapse, how often do they use the words weak and stupid? I was weak. I was just stupid. And then they think recovery is being strong and smart. And that's not it. And that's the thing. And this is the whole shift that needs to be made. It's not strength holding things in. It's strength talking about it. Just like I said, that little kid that I saw last weekend who talked about all his trauma and all this stuff from in his life. That's strength. All right? It feels like you could see for him, he felt tremendous shame talking about this. But that's strength to talk about, here's where I was, here's what it's strength. This is a book, it's called Waking Up Alive. It's by a guy named Richard Heckler. Now, I'll talk about this book next week a little bit, but when I taught graduate school out of John F. Kennedy for, 12 years, he taught out there. I went to his book signing. He took a year off. He interviewed people who attempted suicide and lived. How did they recover from this suicide attempt? He said what they did is they turned towards their pain without the fear of being overwhelmed by their pain. Turning towards their pain. Think of how much your addiction was you turning away from your emotional pain. That's what it is. It's an escape from how I feel. All right? This is, so if I'm turning towards my pain, I'm acknowledging it. I feel horrible about myself. I feel like I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm overweight, I'm this, I'm that, whatever. This is how I feel. All right? And noticing this is how I feel. And then acknowledging, wait a second, is that me or is that my voices of my teachers, my parents, my brothers, my sisters, my schoolmates, anything like that? And then now what am I going to do to build this so I feel better about me? Because the reality is, if you leave here, and you don't feel good about yourself, it's not going to work. Because what I said when I first started working here almost 19 years ago, I said there should be step 1A. And step 1A should say, my life is worth saving. Because if you don't feel your life's worth saving, nothing matters. Nothing. And that's what we want to look at here. So how do you do this? Another way to do this is that you anticipate and you accept and you plan that you're going to have cravings. I have to go to a wedding. Someone in my family is going to get married. I'm going to anticipate I'm going to have a craving at the reception. I'm going to accept that rather than, beat myself up. What's the matter with me? I should be strong. I should do this. And I'm going to plan. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to a meeting beforehand. I'm going to bring somebody who's clean and sober with me. I'm going to take my own car so I can leave early. I'm going to be texting my sponsor, and I'm going to go to a meeting afterwards. Rather than, I should just, so many people, I should just be strong. What's a new coping skill that everyone who comes in here should do, but most don't? I'd rather you not drink in front of me. I'd rather you not drink in front of me. Well, it's up to me, and it's my thing, and I got to be strong. No. You say that to someone who's not an alcoholic. I'd rather you not drink in front of me. What are they going to say? I don't care. You say that to someone who's an alcoholic? Nice knowing you.
That'd be hard to do at a wedding.
And then what you do at the wedding is, I'll take pictures, and I'm not going to the reception. And you know what? They may want to, I'm not going to do what they're doing in their head. I'm not going to do that to me. I'm taking care of me. And if they think I'm weak, and if they think I'm this and that, who knows? I'll tell you what, if it's your family and they care about you, and you say, if I'm not at this reception, it's going to help my sobriety, the family say, don't come. Don't come. Yeah, take your picture. You know what? Hey, maybe, we're not even going to have alcohol at it. If that's going to help you. We won't have it. But so many people, no, I've got to be tough, man. It's me. And this is why, like I say, professional athletes, why do they have such a hard time getting clean and sober? What's the first word of the 12 steps? The first word.
Oh, boy. We.
We. What are the first, I see, but that's right. Wow. All right. We admitted we. If you don't like the 12 steps for whatever reason, you need we admitted we. That means I said out loud to another person. Where do so many people get hung up? I thought I. That's their first three words. I thought I had a problem. I. We, you gotta get the we. You gotta get the we. And that's what's so important. And once again, that's a new coping skill, because I had somebody sitting here a few months ago and he said, you know what? I realized I never joined anything in my life. How am I going to join AA? How am I going to be a part of? That's what we need to look at. Go ahead.
Going back to like the wedding or parties,
Right.
I mean, everybody's different, but there's nothing wrong with having water or tonic water
Right.
with lemon.
Right.
I mean, I've done it before at family
Right.
functions, but then I'd go home and I'd have bottles of wine.
So maybe it'd be better if you weren't there. Because instead of, I got to show you how strong I am, then I'm going to go home and drink. Maybe it's better if you don't even go. And I'm not saying forever,
Right.
but for the first 6 months maybe. All right? Because what we want to do is that eventually we want to have a craving, this negative self-talk, these urges in our mind. They're like a car alarm. And I do remember, most of you probably don't, I remember when car alarms were first invented. The first car alarm I heard, I stopped, I looked, I said, oh my God, is somebody breaking in that car? Now I don't even turn my head, as you don't. We have a craving. It's like, okay, wait, I've got a craving. I know what to do. I pull back. I notice I have a craving. I pick up my phone. I call my sponsor. I talk about, hey, I'm having a craving today. Think of this. If you're in here on a relapse, did you say those words? I've been having cravings lately. I've been thinking of using. You know, that's a new step. I've been, whatever, thinking of relapsing. All these kinds of things. We talk about it. That's why here, you think that you can use something when you leave? Talk about it in your small group. That's what we want to do. We want to revalue. And so what we want to do is we want to do these 4 steps every single day. And if you do them every day, your brain chemistry will change. It will get a lot easier. All right? That's it.